Hello everyone, Aaron Stewart here with another Move MHK Monday, and this week we're going to talk about Chapter 5, which is Aquatics. Now Aquatics captured probably the most attention out of the Move MHK plan, and really what this chapter is dedicated to is everything existing and where we're going. So looking at our long-term planning for Aquatics, we really want to look at what the gap analysis was, and since the natatorium's closure, it really created this big gap with indoor aquatics. And so that is something that was identified as a high need. And in fact, in the 10-year priority responses, which was question 25 out of the statistically valid survey, 73% either agreed or strongly agreed with the priority being to build an indoor aquatics only facility with modern amenities that met today's aquatics needs. The other thing that we were looking at is what's the expected lifespan of the existing pools, which is 25 to 50 years. And for those that don't know, most of these were constructed or reconstructed in 2010 and 2011. So we're pushing up there maybe halfway or getting close to halfway of the lifespan for each one of our 3 outdoor pools. And of course, there's a lot of misinformation, so just to clear that up early, no pools are being closed down. That conversation surrounds what to do long-term once these pools live their lifespan out, and what would we do going forward. So let's talk about our existing water parks. That's Seco Park, City Park, and where we are today at Northview Park. These parks were renovated in 2010 and 11 and are generally in pretty good condition. City Park obviously has a non-operational wave rider that we need to address, and by address I mean we need to pull that out and put a different amenity in, but that's going to be a significant capital cost. There's also cracks in the pool basement that we need to address and maintain, complete with our standard maintenance of repainting the pool. Northview Park, one of the problems out here is we have high groundwater and it requires frequent operation of our sump pump operation. So that is something that we pay attention to out here. As far as staffing goes, I recognize in the past there may have been statements of staffing shortages. We have not realized that since I've been here, and in fact we had to shut down our hiring process even before we opened this season because we had plenty of guards. So that's kind of the status of where we are with our existing parks today. So obviously the thing that captured the most attention for this section of the plan and the plan overall was the concept of indoor water and/or indoor water with a recreation center attached. So what came out of the final plan? Well, it was a 2-phase concept and mainly broken into 2 phases because of cost. Building indoor water first and then followed by adding a rec center later. Now we used the location of City Park, 1 because we own the land, but 2 because we were using previous studies that had already studied locations, and it was determined that this was the best location based on the need of serving houses that were below poverty, which so City Park has the highest population of below poverty surrounding it, and the walkability score, which City Park has the most walkability score out of any of our parks in the community, and especially of the locations that we studied. So those are kind of the reasons we chose that. The cost, well, the costs include renovating the park, because if you put a facility like this in there, you're going to have to basically do a total redo of the park, which City Park does need some pretty dramatic updates. It feels dated, and we have roads going through it which should be removed, and right now, other than the 3 amenities of our current pool, our playground, and our pavilion, it is basically used as a parking lot. So when I give you these numbers, they include the renovation of the entire park to the concept, and that's for phase 1 with the aquatics portion would be the $58.5 million, and then phase 2, if we were to add a rec center phase, $80.4, but that would also complete the renovation of the park. So timeline, if we were to do this is making the assumption that we start building in 2028 for aquatics only. The rec center portion wouldn't come before 2040, so we would have time to really see if that's a component we need to add or not. So what is the programming? We currently program swim lessons, aerobics, young swim, 5 and under, lap swimming, and rentals, all these kind of things we currently do in our outdoor facilities. This would just extend that to year-round. And even though we host one meet in the summer at our outdoor facilities, this would allow us to hold multiple meets. It could be KSU Club Swim Team, the Manhattan Marlins, and the high school. And so these would be opportunities to drive economic impact for hosting meets in an indoor facility. So what are kind of the components that were included? Number one, we'd have a comp pool in there, and what we looked at was a 50-meter pool with the idea that it would replace the outdoor 50-meter, and that leisure pool would come later after City Park had lived its lifespan, and we would add that leisure outdoor component to the facility. Dive well, obviously, because we have dive teams in a diving competition, we would want to include that, but we also dualed that area to have open lap swimming along with that. So ideally, the public could access at any time to at least swim laps. We put the leisure component in there, which is what most people would use, and we didn't necessarily specifically design what slides and all that, but we have an amenities in there for zero depth entry, lazy river, slides, those kind of components. And one of the big things for the comp pool is we put in a movable floor. Now, why a movable floor? Well, competition swim likes to swim at a depth of at least 7 feet. Swim lessons really need to be done in 4 feet depth or less. And so we would be able to move at least part of that floor up to accomplish both the competition swim and still use that space for swim lessons. And it'd be highly effective for both. And so that was a worthy investment in our mind, at least to concept, to make sure that we get the maximum use out of that kind of competition pool for both swim lessons and competitions. So where does that leave us with indoor water today? Well, when the commission adopted the Move MHK plan, they gave some guidance of how they'd like to move forward on indoor water, and that's further exploring partnerships with the school district, with the county, and with the university. Finalizing the design, and in that process, really studying what the best location of that facility would be. So exploring that location, even if it's not city-owned property. And then, of course, a funding strategy. And there has been one out there for a 1-cent sales tax, and that will continue to be an option, really to fund the operations and construction of the facility. Now, that particular option actually pulls Parks and Recreation out of the general fund and funds it as a special revenue fund, meaning all operations and all capital projects would come from that fund and that fund alone. And so Parks and Recreation would support itself through that special revenue fund. So that's one strategy, and we'll explore some more. That could be, general fund dollars for operations and renewal of the quality of life sales tax for the capital costs. I think the key here is we recognize that in bringing on a new facility of indoor water, at a minimum, it's going to be $1 million in a tax subsidy a year, and that needs to be funded before we do the capital project. So that's kind of where we sit with indoor water today. If you have questions about this or like additional details, I encourage you to check out not only the Move MHK website, but feel free to ask us questions directly. We'll happily answer those. So I look forward to that, and thanks for joining us again for Move MHK Monday.